a lot of this stuff that I talk about translates almost into any type of terrain, whether it's...
Hey guys, welcome back to the Splatmoto YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about getting stuck. So we had Ben out with us and we're basically going to do some comparisons from how he went up some lines. I didn't give him any tips. He's ridden with me a bunch. I've worked with him a little bit, but he's pretty much an ultra beginner. He doesn't ride a whole lot, but even for not riding a whole lot, he does a lot of things really well because we've worked on some of this stuff. But we're just going to compare the way he goes up it to the way I go up it. We're basically just going to analyze some of the things Ben was doing that held him back from actually kind of keeping a little bit more flow than this. Now, these trails aren't exactly easy. They're really loose. It's like a sandy, gravelly mix with big rocks that are easy to get loose underneath the surface, so it can be really unpredictable. We're just going to talk about some of the kind of power that we're going to use and a lot of body position stuff that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, but now here's us doing it out on the trails.
Notice the difference in body positions between when I took off and Ben took off. So I was actually standing up, getting my body weight back as I accelerated because I'm on a real delicate off-camber, loose-ish little spot that gets into looser stuff as we go here. So if we lose momentum in the middle, we're just going to end up spinning. So I need to really make sure I establish momentum early so that I can keep weight over the back end of the bike and I can let that clutch out a little bit faster. And so the more momentum that we have, the longer we can actually stay back and keep pressure on that rear tire as we're trying to gently accelerate. We're not really trying to explode with power, but we're just trying to gently accelerate forward. And we're gonna have to mitigate the rear tire with the clutch as we feel it's necessary, depending on what our rear tire is rolling over. Once you get up there, you start spinning like crazy, so I gotta establish my momentum right in this 2 or 3 foot little space.
Now this is a loose off camber. If I spun it all, I would break that trail down to nothing and to silt. So I have to take off really gently. Listen to my bike as I take off. Now video doesn't exactly do justice to how gentle you really have to be on this line, otherwise you'll just go down the hill and you'll wash out on those marbles early on. So you can see I actually just gently sort of lift my front end up just a little bit. I'm just basically trying to unweight the front end, but then I still try to drive forward through that little gully. I don't stop accelerating, even though it's a very small amount of acceleration.
My version of this line that we've set out compared to Ben's, one of the things I saw Ben do when he was going up this little spot, he had himself a good launch pad, right? Like there was a good amount of traction here, better than some of the other areas around here. But one thing you can do is, without trying to spin the rear tire at low RPMs, just let the clutch out a little all the way earlier. So sometimes if there is traction, but we're in sort of a delicate situation, we don't want to build too much power and be slipping the clutch the whole time. So kind of I'll demonstrate kind of what I think Ben did, and then I'll show you my version. So really, I think Ben was slipping the clutch a little too much, and the bike's not going forward, right? Okay, so if the bike's not going forward, we got to let the clutch out faster when we can, in the spot that it makes sense to. So if we're on an off camber and it's too junky and we just let the clutch all the way out, it's gonna wash down or it's gonna deflect or something like that's gonna happen. Now, here's a little nuance just for me to back down into that main line. If I just try to come back down the same way, there's a good chance I'll go a little wide and I might not make it down exactly where my tires were when I took off the last time. So I'm actually gonna swing my front end over a little bit to try and make sure my rear tire goes back down into that main line where the most of the traction is. That might be just enough, maybe a little more. All right. Now, instead of slipping the clutch so much, I'm gonna do a little bit more direct throttle with the clutch all the way out, and then as I get to the top, I'll have to start slipping it again.
So you can see it's just that little, it's pretty loose up there. So Ben did a good job, honestly. It's a tricky one to begin with, but just establishing a little bit of momentum when we can, because we know that there's not a whole lot of traction 3-4 feet down the line, right? So we're always trying to just consider what exactly our rear tire is on and what that will give us in terms of how quick we can let the clutch out. Gonna have to experiment with this stuff. A lot of this stuff that I talk about translates almost into any type of terrain, whether it's this kind of stuff, which is dry and crumbly. It's honestly really similar to how we handled a lot of the slick algae rock back east as well. Keeping the weight back as long as we can, low RPMs, it's really, really similar. Now, of course, there's times where we're gonna be pinned and we're clutching it, we're on the front of the bike. Definitely got to be able to do that too, but the majority of the really slow speed technical stuff that you're going to be doing is just low RPMs. Go watch Tristan Hart's YouTube channel. I recommend watching Tristan Hart's YouTube from last year at King of the Motos, and you watch most of his race that he did. The majority of the time the bike's just lugging. He's just kind of sitting down off the back or standing up, sort of having his weight over the rear tire, even on the uphill rocky canyons, until he has to bring his weight forward for the really extreme stuff. So keep an eye on all that kind of stuff. Hopefully this stuff starts to sink in for you a little bit better in your own hard enduro areas.
You can totally change your idea of what's possible when you learn to feel how your weight affects your ability to get forward drive.